The Georgian people do not want Russian world and Russian version of peace. European countries are discussing the sending troops to Ukraine. Russia wants peace in their own Russian manner. Good afternoon, all that in today's wrap-up on UATV English as usual, breaking hard truth in easy terms for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. The Georgian Parliament adopted the draft law in the third and final reading titled On the Transparency of Foreign Influence. The law provoked thousands of protests and unprecedented criticism of the Georgian authorities by Western partners. The draft law in the third reading was supported by 84 deputies out of 150, only 30 voted against it, though. In easy terms, according to the law, all non-governmental organizations and mass media, by the way, that are even somewhat not pro-mainstream, meaning pro-Georgian Dream, that is the political party, meaning pro-Putin, are considered foreign influence and are treated accordingly, in a Russian way. Fines, repressions, arrests, meaning total and absolute impunity of authorities. Fire at will. In whatever country you live, imagine one morning you just wake up to find out the authorities of your country just approved a law you rejected as a nation. And not just once, multiple times. But the authorities still did it. This is exactly what happened in Georgia just recently. Georgia is on fire, in all senses of the term. The Georgian Dream political party is responsible for bringing this clearly pro-Russian bill out, doing all the party can to remain in power. This autumn is the ballot time in Georgia, and whatever Russia does bad in Georgia, it has to be done fast, as after that Georgian Dream party would obviously not enjoy such an overwhelming influence in the parliament as it did now, because now it despises the nation and does all despite national will. Despite all of it, I mean all massive protests in Tbilisi, the fact that this controversial, to say the least, law on foreign agents is a copy-paste from the Russian law, despite the fact that it openly threatens to restrict the rights and freedoms of Georgian media and non-governmental organizations severely, let alone close Georgia's path to EU and NATO. The law is baked by the founder of the Georgian Dream, Ivanishvili, who wants to deprive independent media and NGOs of influence ahead of the parliamentary elections. And so, this so-called foreign agents law will force all opposition media to fill out public financial declarations and will impose a fine which is more than $9,000 for evading it. The Georgian Ministry of Justice will be able to monitor media and organizations at any time to identify so-called foreign agents and obtain all the ministry want from them, including any personal data. Very Russian way, isn't it? And in very Russian style, the Georgian Dream claimed that the law was absolutely necessary for transparency and accountability, and accused NGOs and its own nation, just by the way, of nothing else but revolution. Well, this is exactly what we in Ukraine are praising the Georgian nation for, as when power is corrupted, revolution is an obligation of every citizen. In the West, the Georgian authorities' made-up Russian law was met with sharp criticism.
We were critical, as was the entire European Union, of the law regarding the influence of foreign organizations. Once it was stopped, we were very hopeful that it would not come into effect again. Now there is a new proposed legislation going in the same direction. Our criticism remains the same as last time, and we hope the law will not be passed and that the criticism by us and others is being considered. We believe that such laws are not needed.
NATO and EU and the West said this law takes Georgia further away from these organizations. Well, that is exactly what Ivanishvili wants, by the way. This is his Georgian Dream, a country under total control. Well, why not? If Putin can, then he can do it too. Only that he can't. Because as far as I know, Georgians are not Russians. When they say freedom, they mean it. So in easy terms, expect more protest in Georgia. That much is clear. National Security Advisor to the Estonian President Madis Roll claims that the Estonian government is actively discussing the possibility of sending troops to western Ukraine. This will help Kyiv free reserves to send to the front line. Let me know that Estonian officials have also previously expressed openness to the idea of sending western troops to Ukraine in general. Prime Minister Kaja Kallas in March refused to guarantee that Estonian defense forces would not be sent to Ukraine, and Estonian Deputy Foreign Minister Kiliki Silesti called on NATO to be more open to the idea. At the end of February, after a meeting of presidents and heads of states in Paris of about 24 of European states, Emmanuel Macron openly admitted that he had invited Western states to send their troops to Ukraine.
Jamais nous ne mènerons d'offensive.
We will never lead an offensive. We will never take the initiative. France is a force for peace. Simply today, to have peace in Ukraine, we must not be weak, and therefore we must lucidly look at the situation. And we must, with determination, will, courage, say that we are ready to use the means to achieve our goals, which is for Russia not to win.
So Russia must not win, no matter what. That much is obvious to the world by now. Even despite Russian nuclear blackmail, some might ask, well, please let Kaja Kallas answer the question.
Russia has threatened with nuclear arms before, and so far these have been only threats. Can we tell for certain that he's not going to use them? No, we can't, because they have done all sorts of crazy things before. But we must understand why they are making these threats, to make us refrain from the decisions that we would otherwise make. So I think we shouldn't give in to that. Thank you.
You know, I've always urged my viewers not just to listen to the Kremlin, but instead to look at its deeds. Does the Kremlin not like the idea of Ukraine as a part of Europe and NATO? We need to help Ukraine join both Europe and NATO as soon as possible. Does the Kremlin not like military aid from the entire civilized world to Ukraine? This aid needs to be doubled, no, tripled. Don't get me wrong, Ukraine sees and hears positive changes in international political rhetoric. We appreciate the initiatives of civilized countries to send their warriors to us, although we do not yet ask for this. The world must understand that as long as it can win a war against dictatorship with just money and weapons, it must do so. And let's not pretend that the amount of money matters. No, it doesn't. 100 billion, 500, a trillion if necessary, there will always be more new money and more new weapons for the world after Ukraine wins. What is not there for the world, if it doesn't, there will be no Ukraine. You just don't negotiate with the dictators, you see? Simply because they take your willingness for a dialogue as a weakness and will try to dictate their own rules if they can. So let us all make sure they can't, for our global sake. Hypocrisy has recently been taken at its new low. The hypocritical peace negotiations activity of Vladimir Putin, I mean. Again, he talks about the ultimate Russia's demands to recognize the, I quote, non-defeat of the Russian Federation, whatever that means, seasoning this bloody main course with traditional Russian diplomacy. All lies. Because at the same time as talking about peace, Russia continues to burn down cities in Donbas region and tries to break through in the Kharkiv region, while also scaling up crimes against the civilian population, such a Russian peace formula, if you will. Putin, of course, talks about peace, but in Beijing, a dictator's tête-à-tête. This is not just a classical schizophrenia, no. For a KGB trainee, Vladimir Putin, diplomacy is just a much specific tool of aggression, where the former serves the latter.
Ukraine has been outgunned for months, forced to ration its ammunition. This means that few Russian missiles and drones have been shot down, and Russia has been able to push forward along the front line. But it's not too late for Ukraine to prevail. More support is on the way.
Putin wants the obvious. While we all discuss the so-called peace talks, he wants us not to notice how the Russian Federation massively sends its convicts to storm Ukrainian cities. No one in the world wants peace more than we do in Ukraine. But any truce will be used exclusively as a respite and red herring maneuver. The problem is that a peace for Putin is no different from a war. All that sabotage in Europe, even so Russia has not formally and openly fought with Europe hundreds of years, is an evidence of the obvious. A civilized world is at war with Russia right now. By the way, did you know that Russians use one and the same word to define world and peace? So when Putin says, "I want peace," what does he mean really, I wonder? What do you think? Well, I must say my goodbyes by now. However, more to come already tomorrow. For news on Ukraine, choose UATV English in Ukraine. Done for the whole free world directly from Ukraine. Like, share, subscribe and comment. Your opinion matters. It helps Ukrainian voice to be heard worldwide. Please stay tuned and safe. See you soon.